So we talked a little bit about authenticity behind the scenes
Yeah.
in your business infrastructure, but if you're a creator,
Right.
how do you communicate that authenticity through your brand, or even businesses that are trying to communicate that authenticity in a public space, in the content that they create? Because it can be very difficult with the perceptions that people have to not just fall in line and try to replicate something that you've seen, but then
Yeah.
look inward and really bring that person out, that authentic person out, without compromising your brand or your goals that you want.
All right. I'm going to tag team with what Sun had said before. I'm going to pick up something he said, and I'm going to carrot and answer it, okay?
Rip it up.
So Sun was like, ask people who care about you what your weaknesses are, because there are weaknesses and the other side is a strength. So many of us are programmed to look at the standard, and if we're a deviation from the standard, we're considered abnormal. We're not normal. We're substandard. And so all our lives, all we're trying to do is to be normal. Like, stop being so weird. Can't you just be normal? We've heard this over and over again from siblings, from parents or friends, like, you're being so weird right now. And if you start to dissect this word normal, and you look at the meaning of the word normal, what does normal mean? What is the norm? Norm means average. But nobody tells you, can you just be average? Because that's insulting.
Mhm.
Be average. No one says, I'm gonna be the average person in my class. I'm going to write an average book. I'm going to write an average post and have an average following, live an average life, raise average children, and marry an average person.
Yeah.
But we don't understand. That's why words are power. Be normal. That's what it means to be normal. So we're trying to remove all the parts of us that are weird and abnormal, so we fit in some box that someone else has told us that that's normal. If you look at how the grading system and the schooling system, especially here in America, it's all designed to find the middle. The edge cases usually suffer. If you look at the troubled children in classrooms, they're usually the slowest or the brightest. They're never the ones in the middle, because they follow the program really well, and they're going to live a productive corporate life. Right? So I went to my kid's class, and there was this kid. He's super bright. He's misunderstood. His name is Cameron. I think he's Iranian American. And he was, the kids hated him because he was so disruptive, because he was too smart for this slow, normal class. He was just too smart, and then he was misunderstood. And my wife would just go home super sad. It's like, poor kid, nobody understands him, but I see how smart he is. But here's the thing. We talked about the unicorn with its horn cut off, the llama.
Yeah.
You are all abnormal. You are all atypical, and this is a good thing. So what you've been doing is you've been scrubbing so hard to remove all the parts that make you uniquely weird, powerful, wonderful, and different, which is what brand is. And being authentic is just saying, you know what? I'm done with that. I've lived my life under the rules of whoever, and you can blame whoever you want. At the end of the day, you'll still have to blame yourself, because as a person who has free will and agency over your life, you have to take responsibility for that. And now it's like, I owe it to myself to live to my truth. If you don't like me, I'm not mad at you. I'm just not for everybody. And that's totally okay, because I don't even like everybody. Actually, I hardly like anybody, so that's okay. My number one job is to like myself. So when you talk about authenticity and communicating that, I would start off by not looking at what your strengths are, which is what everybody does. Look at where the dark, ugly crevices of your shadow self, and learn to accept that person as part of you while you work on improving, but accept that person for who they are in this moment. And you'll find out, if you take your weakness, you can make it your strength. Some of you are, who's going to VidCon? Oh, only a handful. If you go to my talk on, it's tomorrow. At 12:30, I'm going to dive into this. Okay, I'll give you the example. This is a trailer for the talk, I believe. I might still change it, but you know that company, Mini Cooper? Okay, there's a British car, and it's built on this legacy of really small cars that are a little bit underpowered but handled like it rides on rails. You know that expression? And my wife doesn't understand that, but when she drove on, she's like, I really like this ugly car of yours. So I had a Mini Cooper. But so what is the norm? The norm is to keep building bigger utility vehicles, and that's what sells in America. So the Brits are like, screw that. We don't want to be normal. We want to be abnormal. So what is the criticism of this car? It's underpowered. It's small. Right? So it's small. That's what they would critique you on. So your thing would be, how do we make that a virtue? So this is not their real campaign, but I think we're mighty small. And that's really cool. So we start to think about things that are small but mighty. And we say maybe the tone or the voice of the brand is packs a punch, right?
Yeah. It's almost
So
like making fun of like what they already are self-aware.
yes, so we're going to take your ability to critique us and we're going to make a perceived weakness a strength. This is guerrilla marketing, by the way. So they have a picture, and it's a photograph of a red and white Mini Cooper with shot from the top, and they put a punching glove right next to it, and it looks very similar, mighty small, right? And they have a bumblebee of, like, you know, the fat ones,
Yeah.
black and yellow. They have a black and yellow Mini Cooper, right? And then have another one that's red and white again. It looks like a match. There's things that are small that are very powerful. So they've embraced that. Instead of fitting into that, they have this whole thing about quirky drivers wanted kind of campaign. They're for drivers. And they use quirky language. That's also part of building a brand. They don't call it the trunk, they call it the boot, right? The boot is the trunk. Is that my terminology, right? So yeah. So they use all these British terminology because they're not going to fit in. So they purposely attract people who don't want to fit in. And they build a cult-like following. So that's a lesson you can learn from a company like them. And there's countless examples of this.
So even as you're talking, I think, so I introduced myself as ManagerJon, and that's kind of like off-putting for a lot of people.
It is.
Because, yeah, well, what do you manage? You know, that's the thing that people say. But the reality is when I was younger and we were starting off YouTube, it was in high school and we didn't really know what we were doing. And my friend was the talent who had the channel. We would do we're talking 2010. So we're talking 2010 is where we were in our YouTube phase. And my good friend had the channel and I would help him make videos. And we would run around all high school making these videos. And eventually we got a lot of traction on YouTube. And I would be the manager of him. We're in high school, like messaging people back for sponsors, going to different conferences like VidCon, Playlist Live, getting invited to these different things. And every time I would go and do these meetings, my friends would make fun of me and they'd be like, oh, there goes ManagerJon doing his thing. And eventually it wasn't until I started owning that things really changed in my life. And I owned it and I put an LLC on it. And I started introducing myself as that because I knew that it was a pattern interrupt for people. And it was exactly to your point, taking a weakness and then identifying with it. And, you know, we've been able to do phenomenal things. I've been able to build a great team. And it was through that ego identifying and aligning myself with a weakness that I think I really started to grow a brand that stuck with people. Right, to where it used to be a joke and now they're introducing me as ManagerJon to somebody, and so it's not so funny anymore.